Weather AM here at the Weather Network. We have all your forecast details, starting off with some of your temperatures across the country. You can still see some cold air situated over top of us. Winnipeg feeling more like minus 15 today. Even cold across Ontario, minus 19 is what Ottawa's feeling like today. Halifax feeling more like minus 10. But the good news is all this cold air will soon see a little bit of a departure from it, giving way to perhaps a January thaw. In fact, in Toronto, we're getting upwards of 4 degrees by the middle of the work week, and quite the change for those in Ottawa, feeling more like minus 19 today and tomorrow, but then you get upwards of 2 degrees by Thursday. Keeping in mind, we do have to deal with some snow before we get to that little bit of a thaw pattern. We have some widespread snow for the south on the way today, and that's going to continue with a soggy pattern on Tuesday. Tuesday, though, because of that warm-up, we could even see some freezing rain. Now, tomorrow, if you're headed back to work, do be aware the commute could be a little bit more slow than usual, especially with upwards of 10 centimeters in the forecast, which will start today and continue in through tomorrow. But as we head into Tuesday, that's when we watch for those periods of freezing rain, especially through the southwest. You can see that purple bubbling up through Windsor, London, and then we watch for snow through Barrie down towards Kingston and Toronto. And of course, up north, you'll likely just experience more snow that is ongoing. That's going to continue through Tuesday evening and even in through Wednesday as well. Wednesday, though, we finally get a little bit of a break, and then you'll expect those warmer conditions on the way. So before we get to those warm conditions, you have some active weather to deal with. And similar for those in Atlantic Canada, you'll deal with minus 19 temperatures, or what it will feel like in Halifax tomorrow. But then you also get your warm up. Check out Friday, upwards of 5 degrees. But today, you are dry across the Maritimes. While it will be chilly, you'll likely get some peaks of sunshine moving on in. But for those in Newfoundland, be aware of this low that we're tracking. It's going to bring widespread snowfall and blizzard-like conditions through the overnight. That's going to linger for tomorrow morning as well. So if you're on the Avalon, also be prepared for a snow and a slow commute tomorrow. Upwards of 30 centimeters is possible. Other portions of Newfoundland, upwards of 10 centimeters is possible. Then when we head west, we're continuing to watch that snow that was ongoing across northern portions of Alberta. Well, that's going to sink further east. That's going to bring some snow for those in central Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba through the Interlake region to end off your weekend, giving way to more dry conditions on your Monday, but you'll still have to contend with some cloud cover. When we look at how much snow you could expect through Sunday and through Monday, upwards of 10 to 15 centimeters is possible. And if I move over here, you can see through that Interlake region, upwards of 10 centimeters is possible. And you'll also get a little bit of a warm up, but not as warm as those on the east. Check those carbon monoxide detectors and fire detectors. It is a brand new year, so no matter where you are in the country, it's a good idea to check those batteries and change those batteries. Set yourself up for success for the new year, and always keep those safety precautions in mind no matter what province you're in. When we take a look at your national forecast, we're watching for a few systems. The first one will likely impact those across Ontario today in through tomorrow, with some widespread snowfall for southern Ontario as well as north of the GTA. Meanwhile, in Atlantic Canada, we watch for blizzard-like conditions through the evening, continuing tomorrow, specifically for Newfoundland, while the Maritimes remain dry, but you'll still deal with colder temperatures for those on the east. Meanwhile, on the west, we still watch that ongoing light snowfall across the prairie provinces. You'll likely continue to see that in through your Monday morning, but specifically for those across northern and central portions of Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba through that Interlake region. Now, when we look at your long-range forecast, we're watching for a messy low for those across Ontario that could bring freezing rain for those on Tuesday and through Wednesday, as well as widespread snowfall as well. Meanwhile, on the west, we continue to watch those king tides in BC, as well as some heavy rainfall at times. We'll dive more into this throughout the program here on Weather AM. But when we take a look at your temperatures on the west, you can see a little bit of a temperature divide. You can see the cold air really situated north and for those eastern prairie provinces. But when you head to BC, check out the temperatures. 8 degrees, but unfortunately plenty of rain on the way. When you're across the prairie provinces, though, I mentioned that snowfall we're continuing to watch, upwards of 15 centimeters for northern Alberta, and then for those across central portions of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, upwards of 10 centimeters today in through tomorrow. Now, when I talk about that heavy rainfall across BC, this is likely going to be the story for the next couple of days. We could expect upwards of 75 millimeters across the Metro Vancouver area. Everywhere else could see see upwards of 30 millimeters closer to the west coast. Meanwhile, if you're in those high elevation areas, the freezing levels upwards of 1,500 meters right now. We could expect some heavier snowfall through Whistler, Hope, Abbotsford, and Revelstoke. And the good news is that at least you'll start to see a little bit of a warm up. Not for those in BC, are already quite warm enough, but when we head to the prairies and further east, you'll start to see a little bit of a relief from those cold temperatures. -7 will certainly be a relief in Saskatoon compared to last month's -30 with that wind chill. And here's a look at that soggy condition that's likely going to continue across BC for at least the next 7 days. Speaking of those king tides, we saw some of the footage out there. Well, we are watching for coastal flood warnings across parts of BC. Abnormal high tides with the risk of coastal flooding could be possible, so do be aware near those shorelines. And also, you'll certainly want to pack an umbrella of some sort or some rain gear. We have plenty of rain on the way today across BC. The Metro Vancouver area could expect upwards of 75 millimeters, but if you're heading up to the mountains, we got some fresh snowpacks for you on Sunday. It's looking like a snowy one, so bundle up if you're headed for a ski. Meanwhile, across the east, we watch for blizzard conditions on the way tonight across Atlantic Canada, specifically Newfoundland and the Avalon. Meanwhile, tomorrow's looking like a snowy day across Ontario, and Tuesday with another system bringing some freezing rain. We're going to dive into all of this during Weather AM today, but here's a look at the amount of snow we could expect for those across Newfoundland. This system really taking aim at the east. You can see specifically the Avalon, upwards of 30 centimeters of snow starting tonight, this evening, and even continuing tomorrow. A lot of people heading back to work tomorrow from their holiday vacations, so do be aware on those roads. It could become slow. And you can take those notes across Ontario too. You can see how much snow we're expecting through Monday as well. It could make for a slow commute across the GTA with upwards of 10 centimeters, and through the Bruce Peninsula, even more snow possible, upwards of 15 centimeters. In the long range, I mentioned some freezing rain. Well, warm temperatures are going to trigger that freezing rain and even some snow through midweek. It's Sunday, January the 4th. You're watching Weather AM as we get you prepared for your work week ahead and whatever plans you have today to end off your weekend. We start off our forecast in BC. You saw that soggy conditions. Well, that's likely going to continue, but if you're in those high elevated passes, be aware that we could expect some heavy snowfall at times. We get a little bit of a break from that rain through Monday morning, but that's going to continue and ramp back up on your afternoon on Monday and Tuesday. And then by the end of the day today, here's how much rain we could expect, upwards of 75 millimeters across the Metro Vancouver area. And for those on Vancouver Island, you could expect upwards of 30 millimeters. Meanwhile, when we check out the snowpacks, you can see heavy snowfall possible for Hope, Whistler, and Abbotsford today. Also, parts of Nelson and Cranbrook could see that heavy snowfall. So good news for those avid winter sport lovers. You'll have some fresh powder on the ski hills. Meanwhile, across the prairie provinces, you can see that ongoing snow that we were watching yesterday. That's going to continue, but it will soon taper off through the overnight, giving way to clearer conditions Monday. But you still could expect some lingering snowfall through northern and central portions of Saskatchewan as well as Manitoba. By the end of Monday, here's how much snow you could expect. Not the most significant snowfall, but roads could become a little bit more slow on Monday. Meanwhile, when we head to Atlantic Canada, well, you'll likely get some sunny skies across the Maritimes and dry conditions. We'll watch for our next impactful system that will certainly just take aim at Newfoundland specifically. Heavy snow, but also blizzard conditions are possible as well. You can see those winds gusting over 60 kilometers an hour. The good news is we were initially watching those wind gusts yesterday, and they looked a lot stronger. So because it's the low is so far off to sea that we're starting to get a little bit less of those wind gusts, but we'll still likely expect some reduced visibility on the roads, especially for the Avalon, with 30 centimeters of snow possible to end off your day Monday. Well, the heaviest will be through the overnight. Tomorrow, you'll still see some lingering snow on your work commute in the morning. And for those in Ontario, a similar situation, not blizzard-like conditions, but some widespread snowfall on the way. You can see as it makes its way across the Nickel Belt heading towards the south, and then the next messy system will take aim at the south on Tuesday, bringing with it not just snow, but also freezing rain. When we look at how much snow we could expect on your Monday, upwards of 10 centimeters across the shores of Lake Ontario. But when you head up the shores of Georgian Bay, Lake Huron, we could expect upwards of 15 centimeters through those snow belts. And here's another look at that long-range forecast when we watch for the next messy system with that widespread freezing rain through southwestern portions of Ontario, widespread snow across the GTA, Barrie, and then through Kingston and Ottawa, which will head towards Quebec on Tuesday evening. It is Sunday, January the 4th. Thanks for tuning in here on Weather AM. Chilly conditions still lingering. We do get a little bit of a relief from these cold conditions later on in your work week. It's feeling more like -5 in Toronto today, and through the evening, -10 is what it's feeling like in Toronto. And if you're in Niagara Falls, it is -2, feeling more like -7. And with all of your snowy details, here's meteorologist Nadine Powell. Just last night, it is coinciding even with a supermoon. Very interesting how this plays a key role in these king tides. Meteorologist Nadine Powell joins us to talk more about this. Nadine, I wasn't able to get a glimpse of the moon myself. It was a little bit too cloudy, but it's really interesting how it can play a role in these rare but almost annually occurrences of the king tides.
Yeah, well, typically we see the diurnal cycles of regular tides, high tide, low tide. But with king tides, these are exceptionally high tide levels. Like you mentioned, has some relation to the full moon, not just the full moon, but the new moon too. We'll show that in just a bit. But affecting British Columbia, Victoria, I don't know if you remember last week we had a powerful low that ripped across the Great Lakes. With that too had impacts to, water levels.
Now, and how could I forget that storm last week? It brought such impacts. But thank you so much, Nadine, for diving into some of these interesting and even rare weather phenomenons.